Welcome back, America. I'm Hugh Hewitt. Congressman Jim Banks joins me. Good morning, Congressman. How are you? Happy New Year.
Hey, good morning, Hugh. Happy New Year. Thanks for the great Hoosier music to start my day, the great John Mellencamp. That's some great tune there, so I
I
appreciate
wish
that.
I could have said we knew that, but I didn't know that. But, Congressman, first question. You spent the Christmas holiday with your wife and family talking about whether you're going to run for Senate. Did you make a decision?
We did, Hugh, and here in the next couple of days we will be making that announcement and a decision about the United States Senate. So stay tuned. I expect to make that public announcement in the next few days, but we feel like the United States Senate is a greater opportunity to do bigger things, especially for the national security issues that I care most deeply about. And Indiana deserves a conservative senator. Mike Braun has been a strong conservative during his time in the Senate. He's running for governor of Indiana, and we feel like this is an important opportunity, so we took a strong look at it. We're going to make a big announcement here in the next few days.
Now, I got to ask you, I watched the Kevin McCarthy battle, and you stood by his side throughout, and thank you for doing that. Another congressperson from Indiana, Victoria Spartz, was with him, then she wasn't with him, then she came back. I viewed that all as her trying to maneuver to run for Senate. I think she badly hurt herself. I certainly think that's not what Hoosiers are going to want in a senator. What was she doing, in your view?
Well, I can't explain it because it didn't make sense to me at the time, and I haven't had a chance to unpack that with her. But at the end of the day, Kevin McCarthy is going to be a strong Speaker of the House, Hugh, and I believe he'll be a strong and historic speaker because he understands that his power comes from the members of his conference, not from the gavel and the position that he holds. And the rules package that we passed last night empowers him and empowers the conference to get the things done that we promised that we would do. So that's why I stood by him. That's why I voted for him. I've seen the vision that he has for our country. What we're going to do today, I think, will be maybe the legacy of this conference when we create the select committee on China, put Mike Gallagher, who's eminently qualified to lead that panel, and be the first Congress in American history to identify China as the biggest threat to our American way of life. And that's the type of leadership that Kevin McCarthy is going to bring as Speaker, and why I voted for him 15 times.
I'm glad you voted for him 15 times. If anyone didn't vote for him 15 times, I don't want him running for a statewide office. I doubt that they can get reelected, actually, if they didn't vote for him in the end. Those 6 who were holdouts, I am most astonished by Eli Crane, whom Kevin McCarthy got elected. Do you have any explanation for what those 6 did?
You know, I don't know Eli well at this point. Of course, you know, the Navy SEAL. I appreciate his contributions and service to our country. So I look forward to getting to know him. I can't explain it to you. I mean, a lot of the rules changes that many members of our Republican conference that we passed last night that we're championing, talking about, those were negotiated before last Tuesday, before the very first vote, and it kind of came down to a group that negotiated a few nuanced differences, and I know you've talked about that with Chip Roy sort of leading that negotiation, and then the rest of them that never came on board. And you know, at the end of the day, some members of Congress, not a surprise to you or anybody that's listening, love the attention, and there was a lot of attention given to them last week for some of the way that it played out. But we're in a better place. We're ready to move on, and I'm excited to roll up my sleeves and get to work on the big issues that we promised the American people we would focus on, why they gave us the majority, and we get a chance to do that today, and I'm excited about that.
Do we know the other members of the Select Committee on China yet?
We don't. I don't know yet. I know Mike Gallagher was asking members, soliciting a broad group of members to participate and be a part of it. I hope to be a part of it in some way, but we got to pass the resolution to create it, which we're going to do today, and then that will allow Mike to get to work and put the panel together and start holding hearings and meetings, and that's what's most important. I'm on the Armed Services Committee, Hugh, as well, as you know as well, and you know we have a lot of work to do on that committee that's been held up over the last 10 days or so too. So it's time to get these committees moving, and we had a couple of new chairmen who were picked last night. So that allows us to move forward. We have to make up for lost time and get to work, and this week you're going to see some of that happen.
Now, Congressman Banks, I have another Hoosier coming up next hour. Former Vice President Pence is joining me, and I'm going to ask him the same question I'm about to ask you. Two of them, actually. The easy one is, former Vice President, now President Biden, took classified documents with him to Penn, just like former President Trump took classified documents with him to Mar-a-Lago. We have a special counsel for Trump, and the Biden papers investigation was not assigned to that special counsel. That is clearly an appearance of impropriety because special counsels are much bigger deals than U.S. attorneys in Chicago. It's the same set of circumstances. A man who is running for president has got classified information where the government doesn't think it should be. Why wasn't that, in your view, assigned to Jack Smith, the special counsel who has stood up for Donald Trump?
Well, I mean, the sheer hypocrisy of this, I just saw the Hill newspaper put out a story trying to explain the differences between the classified documents at Mar-a-Lago and the classified documents at Joe Biden's Chinese Communist Party funded think tank. And there are few differences between the two that we know of. And at the end of the day, we don't know what the classified documents were at Mar-a-Lago. I suspect that they were keepsakes that President Trump had tried to keep for his presidential library. We don't really know because none of that's been made transparent or public. I also saw a clip this morning that I hope you play at some point of Joe Biden lambasting President Trump for doing what he ended up doing exactly the same thing. So I don't know why the special counsel wouldn't look into both circumstances. And as well, there is a case to make, Hugh, that a president of the United States has the power to make classified documents to declassify them. The vice president doesn't have that power. So there might be a strong difference in all of this that needs to be explored.
Well, the obvious thing to me is the same guy should make the same standard apply to both sets of papers. And they're both running for president. So it seems to me Merrick Garland is protecting the president from a special counsel who could be empowered to say, Joe Biden is going to get charged and Donald Trump isn't for this reason. And he's seen both sets of documents. One pair of eyes on two sets of documents. He might go the other way and he could explain it. I hope Jim Jordan calls up Merrick Garland immediately and asks him why these do not go to the same guy to review under the same standard. My next question, and it's even more important, the debt limit will come up first. And the debt limit, we've got to have a concise, by we, I mean Republicans, a concise, focused ask. I think it ought to be, we are not going to raise the debt limit until we shut the border. And that's how you communicate it. You might have three ways to shut the border. Finish the wall, fund the border patrol, build the facilities you need. But we're not going to raise the debt ceiling until you bring down the curtain on the border. It's easy to communicate, it's concise, and it's persuasive. I don't know if that persuades you, but will somebody come up with a message early so we can repeat it often on what the demand is for the debt limit raise?
Yeah, I completely agree. This is the leverage that the majority gives us, and we have a duty to use that leverage, especially when it comes to securing the border. This was why the rules package last night was important, getting rid of the Gephardt rule, which is a Democrat rule that every time they have the majority, they institute. And when Republicans have the majority, we get rid of it. That allows for the debt limit to increase on its own when a budget is passed that spends more money. So by getting rid of the Gephardt rule, that gives us more leverage to do exactly what you're describing that we do. We have a duty to do that, and I think you'll see House Republicans unified in that regard.
Now I know how the debt limit works, and I know that it's got to be raised or default occurs, and I know that the left-wing media is going to get hysterical about it. But what I don't know is who gets to decide what the ask is. I assume Speaker McCarthy is the leader of that conversation, but do you think the conference will come together, like your Republican Study Committee would come together, on a focused, concise, repeatable message? Because I get messaging. That's what I do every day. I sell things, right? You got to say something 7 times. Jim Banks is running for Senate. Jim Banks is running. If and when you declare it, we'll say it 25 times. We'll give people your website. I hope you clear the field, but we will message with consistency. Do you think the GOP understands that it's got to do that?
I'm certain of it. As far as House Republicans are concerned, I am certain that we will use our leverage in the majority when it comes to a debt limit to focus that attention on securing the border in return. I mean, that has to be where we go. It's the top issue among it. In every Republican congressional district in the country, the border is the number one issue that Republican voters care about. That's why we have the majority. We have to use it.
Now, as I recall, the Democrats were willing to fund the wall in the first year of Donald Trump's presidency. If we insisted on 1,000 miles of wall and a doubling of the Border Patrol and a building of facilities for those who get through, do you think that the Democrats can stand against that?
I don't know how they can make a case against it. I mean, I've been talking more and more these days in communities all over Northeast Indiana about the fentanyl crisis and what happens when you open the border wide open and the Mexican drug cartels seize this moment in time to flush more fentanyl and illegal drugs over the southern border. That affects Democrat districts just as much as it affects my red Republican district in Northeast Indiana. So I don't know the case that these Democrats can continue to make against common sense measures like securing the border, building another 1,000 miles of the wall, and providing for a better enforcement of those laws at the southern border. So that is the single most important case that we're going to make in this majority. And to your point, using the debt limit to get that done, that's the one shot that we have.
Last question. I've got Vice President Pence coming up. I expect he'll be by your side when you run for Senate. If you run for Senate, Jim Banks, will make that formal announcement, as I expect. Do you expect the Vice President to be endorsing Jim Banks?
Well, I respect and admire him so much. I just finished his book over the Christmas holiday. It's a great book. I hope everybody will pick it up and read it. So I endorse his book and what he stands for. He's a great man of integrity and very well regarded in Indiana. So I'll leave Hugh that up to him about what he decides to do in a U.S. Senate primary in Indiana. But there are a few endorsements I would rather have.
You know, I doubt that anyone's going to run against you. I don't think Mitch Daniels is going to run. He's 72 or 73 years old, but I sure hope Congresswoman Sparks doesn't, because she's got some penance to do. Jim Banks, good to talk to you, Congressman. I look forward to hearing from you next whenever you make an announcement one way or the other on the Senate race.